green room right now for this edition of Author's Corner is Renate Schalk Schreiner. She has written an interesting book. It's a children's book, but I argue that adults could read it and enjoy it as well. Undersea Adventures of Olli and Friends is the name, and it's so clever. Renate, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, of course. I'm honored to do that.
Thank you. So tell me about your book. First of all, why did you write the book?
Well, I never intended to write a book, but as it turned out, a good friend has an email, and that contains an O and a Y, O for octopus and Y for yo-yo. When she told me about that, I said, oh, I can see it now. Olli the octopus is playing with 8 yo-yos, and he gets tangled up and has to ask for help. And then she said, go home and write a story. Since I'm a writer for 10 years with a group, it didn't seem strange to her. So I went home, sat at the computer, and the words just came. And they came in rhyming form, like my mom used to do. I think I inherited that from her. But anyhow, then when I was finally done, 21 poems came out, 60 in the story. When I read some of those, they were a little different at the time I edited. And everybody that heard them said, you have to publish this. This is great. Children will love it. So I thought, well, for my 80th birthday, I'm going to do something about it, which I did. And I went to Author House and published with them. And now everybody that sees the book loves it. And my cousin in Germany, Udo, he created the illustrations for it, and they are just lovely. And they are so different than other illustrations, and everybody just enjoys them, especially the kids.
Yeah, I agree with that. The illustrations are powerful, and for people listening, because we know it, we're in the season where it's gift-giving, and you're looking for kids and books were always very big in my life, Renate. We would go to book fairs, etc. And so children's books are huge. Did you ever think growing up that someday you would write a book, you would do a children's book?
Are you kidding? Never in my life. Never. I loved them. Since I've been a teacher for all my life, I loved reading books to children, and I loved good children's books. And well, when this came up, of course, then when I started with Olli, I said, well, since I've been a teacher, Olli has to go to school, and he has to find out from his classmates, the guppies, that school is really cool, and he loves and adores his teacher, who is a mermaid, and she is King Neptune's oldest daughter. And so they have adventures together, and many of them, and meet many friends, different kinds of friends, and it didn't matter who they are, what they looked like, what size they were, how they walked, and this. He just loved to make friends.
Yep, I love that story about friends, because that's what I said. You can pick up the book on Amazon. It's Undersea Adventures of Olli and Friends. How important are friends?
Oh, I could see that firsthand all the time when I was teaching, because they are so important. And, children usually don't make a difference. What color they are, what size they are, what shape they are, how they dress, how they talk. Even if they can't understand each other, they can be good friends. And eventually, when the language is learned, the new language, and so which Olli has to learn too, they get along just fine. I have many different friends, and I don't care what they look like, and why should I? Because they're all human beings. They're all worth of other people's friendship. And so they can learn that from the book Undersea and bring it up to above the sea and have their friends. And to me, it's very important. And, when they read the book, the children, or when they are read to, the children can learn right along with Olli different things. And for actual facts, and that Olli has to learn, and that he has ink in his body, and people and the animals have different feet or fins, and communication, like the different languages, and politeness, and love for animals and for all life. to me, that is so important. And in this case, especially the ocean.
I agree, and I think part of that goes to your background, because we are what we know and how we grow up. Just tell the listeners briefly, because it's fascinating what your family had to do, how you grew up, and then how you ultimately came to the United States.
Well, I was born in a place in Germany that was called East Prussia. Well, after my dad died in Russia. In 42 and in 45 we fled from there because the Russians were coming and invading, and we went to the west. And after World War II, East Prussia was divided between Russia and Poland, and my home was what is now Poland, and it's a beautiful country. And then I grew up in the west and became a kindergarten teacher, taught there for a while, and then I immigrated to the United States in '64, and I was a domestic servant for a while because they paid for my trip over, and then I went back to teaching and became a Montessori teacher in Wisconsin and worked there for 20 years until I got married, and I went and moved to Hawaii and taught there for a while, and then I moved eventually to the Napa Valley where I am now.
And again, we're speaking with Renate Schalk Schreiner, and in talking about your childhood, because this is fascinating, that history. Do you remember what it was like fleeing?
Oh, do I remember? I was 6 when we did that. Of course I do. I remember for instance, it took us about a year to get to the west, and Grandma, Mom, and my little sister were together, and we always had to see that people could give us a room someplace, maybe some food. And I know my grandma, she was crying when she saw my little sister and me fighting with the foods for the Slav, for the pigs, for food, the Slav, because we were hungry. There was nothing to eat, and not everybody was kind enough to give us something. But I do remember. I don't remember my father because he was in the war, and I don't remember him. I have pictures of the two of us, but that's about it. Yeah, my sister,
wow.
Of course, doesn't remember because she was younger than I am, but I remember enough, and it comes up once in a while when we talk, especially with my friends here, my German friends, who went through the same thing or even worse, and it's something I like to keep in the background.
Yeah.
But it does come up once in a while,
yeah,
you know.
But it goes to you and your adventures and everything you said that's phenomenal, how your life has turned out, and then how you're giving back, in a sense, in writing this book, The Undersea Adventures of Olli and Friends, because you said it, what you want children to take away from it, and how children are, they're not looking at languages and shapes and colors, and isn't that wonderful?
They don't.
Yeah.
No. And that one of the things, that's one of the last story, is that how Olli, the teacher actually started that he's really worried about what their home, the ocean, is going to look like, because people throw the trash in it and they don't seem to care. And so she says to our class, can you help me? Can we do something about it? Of course, they're all in there. And, you know, they learn, they clean the ocean, their part there, and have a big pile of garbage on the beach, and Olli writes a note with his ink in the body to the humans: keep the ocean clean, this is our home. And, you know, they are so disrespectful to us. And when children get this message early enough, you're driving home the point, and when they are small, you know, they soak everything up like a sponge, and it's much easier to get them for the mutual respect of our planet than when they are teenagers. By that time, they're interested in different things.
Right. So, and messages there, when you're right, when they're younger, they stick. There's no question about it. Well, I think it's a phenomenal book. The illustrations, as you mentioned, are incredible, and that's part of that journey. And like I mentioned before, we're coming up on the holidays, so it's perfect to feature you here on this version of Author's House. And again, Renate Schalk Schreiner, thank you so much. Pick up Undersea Adventures of Olli and Friends.
I really would appreciate that, and I know you will enjoy it because everybody else who bought a book from me already does. That's all I ever hear.
Well, thank you, and we wish you the best with the book, and thanks for listening to this version of this show, everybody.
Well, thank you so very much.